What's up, guys? Today we're going to be doing some servicing on my 2024 GMC Sierra 2500. So if you have a 3500, whether it be GMC or Chevy Silverado HD, this should be helpful for both. Now, starting off with the front, this is for the front diff. We have this 75W85. I got 3 quarts, and I got these packets, which should make it a little bit easier to pour into the cover. And then this is going to be for the transfer case. Again, 3 quarts. And then for the rear diff, we have 5 quarts because this takes about 4.4. Now we are going to be installing the Banks diff cover, so I did get this AMSOIL from them. So you do get it at a little bit more discounted price when you buy it in conjunction with this, but you cannot buy it separately. So let's go ahead and jump into the video. I want to try to get through this as quickly as possible and make it pretty easy for you guys to get into. Now, if you didn't watch my last video, I did already install this O-ring, and if you need help understanding on how to get this O-ring on, then I'll put the video at the end of this one so you can at least have an idea of how to get this prep before you install it. Now, before we get started, you obviously need a drain, so you're going to need this. I also recommend getting a mat for oil, that way it's easier to clean up. And you guys will see here that this has 14 bolts, but figure you have 16 because you have to remove this bracket here, and there's going to be bolts underneath there. Now these are 13 millimeters, and I just tried breaking them loose with my impact, and they are pretty tight on there. So I have a stronger one, but I'm not going to use that. I'm just going to use wrench. I think that's just better for this, and then we can get them undone with the lighter impact here. I did actually paint my diff, and I figured since I'm putting a brand new diff cover on, I want to have it look nice and new with that. So that's just obviously optional. I did it yesterday, let the paint cure, and now it's ready to go. I did drive my truck today, so this is kind of warm. But yeah, 13 millimeters is what it's going to take to break these loose. Let's go ahead and start, and then I'll show you guys what to do next. As I mentioned, you're going to need a deep socket for these 2 bolts here, since there's a stud on them. But I will say these bolts they're pretty tight. They're tight on here. So I just broke them apart with my wrench, and now I'm just using this to kind of do the rest of the job here, where we should start seeing some fluid pop out. Just taking them out little by little. My cover might be like kind of stuck on there because of the paint too, so the paint might be acting as a seal. So I may have to pull it a little bit, which is actually a good thing. And I don't know if I remember mentioning this, but you always want to break this free first, just in case it's seized in there. That way you don't lose all your fluid. You can always obviously figure out something else if you can't break this free here. So just keep that in mind. Now hopefully you guys can see that. I left those 2 bottom ones in here. You can see that grease is coming out ever so slightly. We don't want it to pour out too fast, so we'll just let it have a nice drain like this. Oil doesn't look terrible, but it definitely needed to be changed. I probably towed about, between 3 trailers, probably about 15,000 miles. So it was probably time to do something. I think that they say anywhere between 15 and 30,000 miles. And if you're towing like I do, you probably want to do it around 15 to 20. But I would say that this is fine. 30,000 is probably at the max, but yeah, doesn't look too bad. It's pretty much already been said. Keep 1 bolt at the very top, because when I spray painted this, I didn't spray paint the entire diff cover here, but I did spray around it, and despite that, it's not stuck on there, so it will fall off. So highly recommend you keep 1 of these bolts up here. And I like the idea of having a mat, so go ahead and get you a mat. I'll put some stuff for my Amazon store down below if you want to buy some stuff. I get a small commission if you buy from me, so I appreciate that. But yes, let's go ahead and take this cover off. I want to show you guys. I might switch cameras so you guys can get a little more detail here of how this looks on the inside. So you can kind of hear it gargling. It's just my pan down here. Okay. Oh, there it is. But yeah. Okay. Woo! There's that smell. Oh my gosh. Most of you guys know, man, gear, oil, transmission fluid does not smell good. But I don't know if you guys can see that well, but man, that looks really good. Let me move some of my tools out of the way so we can grab the camera and get a little bit closer so you guys can see inside this thing. It looks good. So you guys can see right there, that is a magnet to catch just metal debris and other things. You can see some of it right here. This is all like, just like slime basically. There's no hard parts in here. Yep, no hard parts. So we're good to go. But as I said, you can see all that right there. There's definitely a interval that you want to do this at. I'll probably do it sooner than 30,000 miles because my truck has like 30,400 something miles on it. And this is something you probably want to do if you're towing as much as I am, probably 15 to 20K for sure. Now here's the gears. Everything looks good actually. I'm probably gonna just clean this out a little bit. You're not supposed to spray brake fluid in here. I think some people don't even recommend you wipe it out, but I'm gonna get some of this slime down there for sure. Just get as much as I can. Obviously, you're gonna clean up around the surface here before we obviously put the new diff cover up. And if you are planning to reuse this guy, clean that up as you would expect. And then of course, you're gonna clean up this reusable O-ring here. It's pretty durable. You can kind of see it did its job. Like there's like some dirt residue right here. So you want to clean this up. And it looks like it goes on either way. So I don't think that you can mess this up. Just make sure it just mates up as before and you should be good to go. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just clean this up a little bit. And then we're gonna go ahead and get that new diff cover up. I'm really excited. They do have some other things that we have to put up for like these lines here. I believe these are brake lines, I believe. So we're gonna have to redo those a little bit. But yeah, this should be pretty simple to get the new cover back in there. And then we're gonna obviously lube up the O-ring that's on the Banks cover too. You have to put a little bit of gear oil on that before you put it back up here. And then like I said, now we have a drain plug with that. And so in the past, these trucks had drain plugs, but I guess the manufacturers just like to make it harder so you take it to the dealership. Just so you guys can see, when you clean off the cover, there's definitely a difference. So you can see right there, right? And then there's dirty right there. So make sure you clean off this mating surface. This is probably the most important part. You can probably tell I cleaned out inside the diff cover. I didn't spray anything in there, I just wiped it out. And like I said, we're gonna clean off this mating surface perfectly because the goal is obviously to make this install not give us problems in the future, right? I would say have a trash bag ready and handy, that way you can throw away some of these rags you're gonna be throwing away. Because I'm not using this diff cover, I'm gonna have to throw that away too, so I need to pull this off because I wanna kinda set this back just a little bit more. Actually, maybe I can do it right here. This is kind of in a way, right there, perfect. So yeah, you can set that back like that. And then yeah, this, like I said, just make sure this mating surface is perfect. It's been about, I don't know, 30 minutes. I went out, got some food real quick, and then came back. And there's still grease is coming out. So I wiped it out really good, and there's still grease residue. So this is what's nice about doing your own maintenance. Sometimes the dealerships, they're all about making money, and I get that. That's their main goal, is to make money. And some techs, they'll work on 2 trucks at the same time, and they can just go ahead and pull the cover down, let the oil run out. That's what Josh does. He'll sometimes have a truck while he's getting something else done. He can have the oil draining out while he does something else and lets most of that oil come out. Same thing goes with this here. You want to get as much of this old oil out as possible, and then boom, you'll have just a better maintained diff in my opinion. So we're gonna go ahead and start prepping the old diff cover. I gotta put some Loctite on some of the bolts, and then we're gonna go ahead and start mounting it up. But I have to clean this one more time. Obviously this mating surface has to be perfect, and so we want it nice and ready to go so we don't have any issues in the future. So you guys can kind of see, this is the fill plug here I took off on the factory diff cover. So I want to show you guys, there's no residue on this, it's just oil. But there is what looks to be an O-ring right here. So make sure that you guys reuse this again and that it doesn't fall off. So I just want to make sure you saw that just in case you're not using the Banks one. That looks so stinking good. The only thing I wish I would have done differently was went with the satin spray paint. I don't know why I got gloss. I normally don't get gloss for anything, but I get satin because it would have went well with this. But regardless, I can always respray this in the future because it's gonna obviously wear off. But this is pretty much done. I put the Loctite in on all the bolts. So you guys see this bracket went back in. Great. I also used their supplied line. I think this is a brake line here. So I use there. So all I have to do now is just torque this thing down to spec. I've seen 29 pound-feet of torque. I've seen 12 pound-feet of torque. So what I'll tell you is torque it to what you think is best for your truck. I think that I'll probably do somewhere in between those two numbers. I'll probably do like around 20, and then I'll just have to check this. But overall, this was an easy install. I think this took me about an hour. And the only thing I'll say is, because I was filming, I took out the spare tire. But even if you're not filming, I would recommend taking out the spare tire simply because it'll make life so much easier. So yeah, take the sucker out, especially if you have an AT4X or ZR2, because those 35s are like 12 inches wide, so that there's just a lot less space. So again, I'm gonna go ahead and torque these bolts down. We're gonna fill this guy up, and then we'll move on to the next diff. Here's some good advice. Don't try to cut these down shorter to make it fill faster. You'll just make a mess. Just take your time. I'm trying to go as fast as I can. I'm like, this is already so easy. Just take your time, let it go in there. It'll take another minute or two for it to get in. But this is so much easier, guys. I am so happy with this purchase. I'm planning to do a lot more of my services myself, and this makes life so much easier. I'm willing to bet you, for the time that it would take me to take off the old diff cover, I could change the oil in the truck. I could even probably change the transmission fluid and this at the same time for the time it would take me just to do the factory diff cover. Why they took away the plug to just drain it, we'll never know. But I am really, really, really happy with this purchase, guys. Like, this is so much better. It looks so much nicer, better cooling. I'm just really, really happy that I bought this thing. And just right now, just filling this up, it's just so much easier. But yeah, don't try to speed this up by cutting this, you know, top a little bit shorter, because I made a mess. And so yeah, just take your time. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I got one more to do in there. There's actually a place here. I'll show it to you guys. Let me move my light. This shows you where the fluid is. I don't have any fluid that hit that indicator right there, so we got to keep going. So this is number 3, and then like I said, I spilled like just a small amount down below here. So I'm going to get the 4th one, and that's why it's a good idea just to buy 5, just in case. You just never know. So I bought the 5th one. That way we just, or well, actually Banks just gives you 5. That's all you can get. So yeah, once you get down to that 5th one, you want to make sure that you don't spill this, obviously, right? Not sure if you guys noticed the fluid like raising when I was showing it to you just now, but I have it above that circle right there. There's actually like a bubble right there now, but I'll check that in probably a few days just to make sure the level's still good. But I tighten up this fill with a 14 mil. And again, like I said, just make sure everything else is nice and tight. You make sure your sight glass is tight. This is a sensor here. All this stuff got installed in the last video that I did. So that's why I said, be sure you go back and watch that video if you want a more detailed look at this guy. But yeah, we're all done on this back one. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Here's the transfer case. They do actually have a drain, and then the fill is right here. I'll let you guys know the size of this nut here. I'm not really sure, but this is going to be really tough to fill because of the location of it. So I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do, because this is the torsion bars, and this is the mounting for it right here. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm probably gonna have to go up this way with the bag, and then yeah, kind of like fill it from there. And this is where you have to probably get creative and just buy something that you can just slip in here and just pump it. They do actually have pump kits that you can use, and maybe, you know, maybe I might go buy one. I might actually go do that for this one, because this is gonna get messy, I can tell. But let's go ahead and break these loose. Looks like a hex head. I'm just not sure the size of it. So I used this tool to get the top nut out here. It's a number 8 hex. I think I will upgrade to something a little bit better in the future. And it looks like it has like some threading on here, like something to keep it from leaking. So I may have to use some liquid thread on these before I put them back up. So I just got to figure out what strength. I don't know if that blue Loctite is good for this, so I'll have to do some research on that before I put this all back up. But I have time, because I can just let this drain for like, you know, a few minutes or so, right? Now this guy here likes to pee, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. So that's why this is not the best tool, because number one, you don't want to lose your drain plug inside of this, because that will just suck. But yeah, this one will squirt out, kind of. So let me just make sure I have just enough. And that's why it's a good idea to have this nice mat. Just saying, this mat will save you a ton of mess. And yeah, like I said, I'm trying to get it with my finger so I can try to grab it. So it's got to go really slow. But you can see some of the thread in there too. These are not super tight, but they're tight enough to where you want to make sure there's a good seal for this. So, yep. Actually, mine wasn't as bad, and I don't have many gloves on either. Ugh, that smell, man. I hate the smell of transmission fluid. But yeah, I'll have to go and find something online. Maybe I can go to AutoZone really quickly. It's getting kind of late. So I figured for now, I just want to do this the hard way, I guess you can call it. So I'm just gonna pour this in like so, and so far it's going in pretty good. I haven't spilt too much of it, but it's not the best way. So in the future, I'll have a better solution for this for sure. But for now, this works. For now, this works. I got quite a bit of this in there. So, and what you're seeing coming down, I think you can probably see. What you see coming down is all I've spilt. Now, I did go ahead and put the drain bolt back in there, and I still have my pan down here to catch the oil. But I did put a little bit of tape on this. I asked my buddy Brian. He recommended a little bit of tape, so I just put a little bit of tape on this drain plug, and then we just gotta put a little bit on the one up here. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and fill this one up, and we're pretty much done with this. This didn't take quite 3, but just go ahead and just, you know, obviously once it starts spilling out like you see here, it'll start coming out a good bit, and then we're done. Here's the front diff, 12 bolt, and there's some Christmas tree harnesses we have to get off. There's one here and then one at the very top, and then this will be able to come off. But yeah, let's go ahead and use a 3/8 to get this undone, and then we'll start taking off these bolts. So these are number 10s. Of course, always remember to loosen up that 3/8 first. And let's go ahead and start breaking apart some of these bolts. So I already started some of them, and they are not tight, guys. Like they're snug, but they're not as tight as the ones out back were. So let's see. Yeah, they're not tight at all. And remember, there's a gasket that you have to reuse, so make sure you don't damage that. Be very, very easy to it, because the one out back, I bent it up, and you don't want to really change the form of it. So I would just say take your time and don't rush this, since you're going to be reusing this. And now if you buy a second one, I think that it'd be good practice. If you know you're going to keep your truck long term, just always have a second one on hand. I did break one of these Christmas trees. These things are just, they're trash. They always break. But I have a bunch of these that I got off of Amazon, and I'll put some down below in the description if I remember. And then that way you can just buy some. They're like super cheap compared to going to a dealership. Yeah, this oil is still really good. They say every 3 to 5 years. I want to hear from you guys in the comment section. I think for transfer case and, well, maybe transfer case can get changed with the rear diff in my opinion, but this front, man, I'm not even joking. This looks like brand new fluid. It is a little darker probably than the original, but I don't know if it's, you know, something I would have changed right now. I think this can go 50,000 because I don't really go into four-wheel drive, but maybe 5 or 6 times a year. And yeah, this one doesn't look bad at all. Like the one out back, you guys saw how dark that was compared to this, but I'm going to get that last bolt off, and then I'll show you guys the internal. All right, so you guys ready? I'm trying to keep this from falling, obviously, so I gotta remove this bottom bolt again. And here we go. The gasket is still installed on here. Yeah, this oil looks great, guys. If I didn't change this for like another couple years, I'd be okay with this. But I'm glad I'm doing it now. I'm doing it all at one time. That way I have a mileage schedule for it. Oh wow, look at some of the debris in here. Hopefully you guys can see that over there. Let me bring it a little bit closer so you can see this. I'm not sure what these little dot things are. It looks like shavings maybe. See them right there too. Right up here. I guess maybe I was wrong. Maybe I should have been changing these a little bit sooner. You guys do remember I did take this truck off road pretty hardcore. So right there, you guys can see. Yeah, maybe you should be changing these a little bit sooner. But you see all that dirt right there? That's from that really hardcore off-roading I did. Got a little bit of mud there, right under this O-ring here. So let's go ahead and clean this thing up. And go ahead and wipe down the internals of that diff, and then we'll put everything back together. I pretty much cleaned the internal part of the cover, and I did use soap and water. I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not, but I'm gonna let this sit overnight. So for me, I'm cool with that. And I also pulled off this fill plug. It does have a rubber O-ring on here, so be sure to retain that. 3/8 head for this, so you can use your wrench. Now this O-ring does not come off, or gasket. This might be more of a gasket here. So I tried to pull on it a little bit, wouldn't come off, so I just figured I'd leave it alone. So just be sure when you go to tighten this back up, it says 17 foot-pounds of torque online. That's what I was able to get. And when you go to fill this, obviously you'll know you're full once it starts dripping out of that fill plug hole here. So yeah, hope this video was helpful. I think we're pretty much done. I think you kind of have the gist of what to do here. This isn't a hard job, but I figured Now that I have the Banks cover, I think that might save me about an hour of time. I think you can get it done within 30 minutes. I figure just letting it drain. And I will mention too, you will have to pull the spare tire down because the fill part of the diff cover from Banks is kind of hidden with those larger tires. So again, I still prefer that versus pulling all this out. So yeah, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. I'll give my impressions on the Banks cover, and I have a promo code down below if you would like to buy any Banks products, save you a little bit of money. See you guys soon.